Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Finland once again, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the latest instalment of the Riku box. So first and foremost, a massive shout out and thank you to Riku Sanaxanaho, my Finnish beer mule. It's thanks to him that you guys are getting to enjoy some Finnish reviews here on the channel. He always picks me out some really interesting stuff. The beers that we've tried from this box so far have been very, very good, and we still have a number of things to work our way through over the next little while. So I hope you guys enjoy these reviews, and of course a massive keepis and kiitos to Riku once again. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is from a brewery that has featured on the channel once before. The last beer we tried from these guys was an Imperial Stout, Isla Barrel Aged if I remember correctly, Iki Urso I think might have been the name. But the beer that we're going to look at today is a style that I haven't tried too many of ever, and it just kind of caught my eye for that reason. And I know that this brewery is quite well known for their big malty, strong beers actually. So I thought this one was definitely worth trying. So hopefully this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. It certainly has my curiosity. So for this review then, we are going to go to Jyväskylä, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologise if I'm not. But that is in the centre of the southern part of Finland, almost directly north of Helsinki, the capital. But we're going to have a look at another beer from Panimoyhtiö Hiisi. And this one is the Loviatar. It comes in at 11% ABV, and this one is a Ryewine. So yeah, I think we've only reviewed one or two Ryewines on the channel over the 10 years that we've been doing it now. But yeah, essentially, a Ryewine is the same as a barley wine, except a good portion of the malt base is malted rye. We've had wheat wines on the channel before. The first wheat wine I tried was I believe from St. Gallen Brewery in Japan actually, and that was when I discovered that there were other things out there other than just barley wine. You know, there was wheat wines, there was rye wines, there's even more than this actually. But this is definitely the first Finnish rye wine that I've come across, and it's the first one that I've come across in this style category in quite some time. This is not a common beer style at all, but I think it could be very, very interesting. This beer has been around for quite a few years. I'm not sure exactly when this one was released, but like I say, it just kind of caught my eye because it was a style that we haven't covered too much on the channel. But yeah, like I say, these guys are known for their big kind of strong beers, so this one should be quite interesting. Let's crack on and see what this one has in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Panimoyhtiö Hiisi. This is only the second time we're trying one of their beers, as I've mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is hugely appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography tagging system. Just use the search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever, and if I've reviewed beers from your area, they will pop up. Otherwise, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries, and you'll find this one in the Finnish playlist, along with many other things, and we will be continuing to add to that over the years that the channel goes forward. So yeah, let's go on to my notes then, and we'll talk a little bit about Panimoyhtiö Hiisi. And again, I do apologise for any bad Finnish pronunciations in this video. I'm not familiar with this language at all, and it is pretty difficult. But yeah, let's do this. So, Panimoyhtiö Hiisi, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Jyväskylä, which is in the Western Lakeland region in central southern Finland. It's pretty much directly north of Helsinki. But the brewery was founded back in 2013 by Mika Silajärvi and Tatu Hitola, and they were joined early on by Mikko Mäkelä. So Mika had been involved in the brewing at Stadin Panimo, and he acted as the head brewer, while Mika ran a company called Oluton, which was selling small brewery products. Mikko, on the other hand, studied marketing at the local university, and he focuses on the marketing and sales side of the company. So they had to put a lot of work into renovating the brewery premises in the early days, and in the first year they produced around 30,000 litres, and by 2016 they had managed to scale this up to 180,000 litres of beer per year, which is pretty impressive. In early 2019 though, Tatu left the company to work for Tanker Brewery in Estonia, and Matthias Höfner was brought in from Brewery Helsingin to be the new master brewer. He's German, but he's been brewing in Finland for about 20 years, and when he came in that year, they produced around 250,000 litres over the course of the year. This is one of the things you have to remember about the Finnish breweries. The taxation system is banded there, so quite often breweries will reach the limit of what they can brew per year, and then they've got to apply for a new license or wait for the laws to change before they'll expand a little bit more. That just seems to be how it goes in Finland. But a number of the beers that Panimoyhtiö Hiisi produce are named after characters from Finnish mythology. They also show these in the artwork as well, but they use a lot of locally grown and sourced adjuncts for a number of their beers, such as rye, chili, buckthorn and coffee. So I'm guessing this one will contain some local rye from the Jyväskylä area. But as of December 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced way over 300 beers, according to Suomen Pienpanimo, which translates into English as the Finnish Finnish microbreweries, I guess we could say. So this is quite a well-respected organisation over in Finland. But like I said, from what Riku has told me and from what I've seen of this brewery, they are best known for their kind of big malty imperial stouts, barley wines and things like this. So this is a brewery that are known for their big, strong, powerful beers, basically. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Panimoyhtiö Hiisi. I would love to go and visit these guys at some point, so we'll need to see if we can organise that with Riku sometime. I do want to go back to Finland and explore it a little bit more, but yeah, in the meantime, we'll try and review a few of their different beers, and this is only this brewery's second appearance on the channel. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can really tell you about them for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a little look at this beer itself. If memory serves me correctly, this is one that Riku ordered for me through Alko in Finland. He didn't get this directly from the brewery, but there you can see the artwork on this one is really quite nice. So as I mentioned earlier, quite a lot of the Hiisi beers are named after characters from Finnish mythology. So it tells you a little bit on the side here. It says, crooked, grinning lady of spells, old as a mountain, fresh as the wells, stirs up a throbbing in veins of the under, worthy of tales and lust of the wander. So it tells you a little bit about the beer as well, but we'll come to that later on. But Loviatar is the... there's a bit of a story behind her as well. I wrote some stuff down. This beer is named after Loviatar, who's the blind daughter of Tuoni, the Finnish god of death, and she is the Finnish goddess of death and disease. So yeah, there's quite a little bit of story behind her. I'll see if I can put the link to the Wikipedia page, and it tells you a little bit about Loviatar in there as well. But I think it's always cool to learn about, local legends and stuff like this. There's a brewery in Poland does that as well, Brower Perun, which is basically Slavic Thor, if you like, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the artwork on this one, I have to say, is very, very nice. There you can see Panimoyhtiö Hiisi's symbol, and you've also got this bottle cap, which we've seen on the channel before too. But like I mentioned earlier, this is an 11% rye wine. Usually when it comes to rye wines and wheat wines and things like this, they are brewed in the same way as a barley wine. Quite often I've heard rye wines can be brewed with wheat beer yeasts, but yeah, usually there's about at least 30% of the malt base in these beers is malted rye. It can be more than that. I think it can be up to about 50 or 60% from what I've seen. There is the style Rogen beer as well from Germany, which is I think that they can be about 60-70% rye as well. But yeah, this one should be really nice. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's going to have in store for us. Not tried one of these beers in a very long time, so I think it will be very, very interesting, and that was the reason that I picked this one. So yeah, if I remember correctly, actually, this is one of the ones that Riku ordered at the very end, and it was a wee bit difficult to get a hold of, but I was kind of determined that I wanted to return to this brewery and to try this particular beer. But yeah, let me just line that up there so it looks nice. So anyway, as you can see, and as you would expect, this beer has poured to be a lovely, very dark sort of mahogany, chestnutty type colour. So we can see that the, yeah, we can see that the this beer's poured, I would say, with about somewhere between a half and a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of fawn coloured head. You can see there that it's got a mix of small bubbles at the bottom and a few bigger bubbles going further up. But yeah, actually quite a nice looking head in that sense. But definitely I would say that this beer is a lovely dark mahogany kind of chestnutty colour. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look very, very nice. Yeah, that's pretty good. So yeah, dark. When you shine the light through this beer, it's actually got a lovely kind of brighter chestnutty colour to it. But yeah, when you take it away from the light, it's that more kind of rich stained mahogany, dark chestnutty colour, which I certainly enjoy. But yeah, goes together really nicely. This beer does have a little bit of a kind of natural haze to it, so it'll be unfiltered. And I think this one, it has been sitting for a wee bit, so there will have been some fermentation as it's just kind of been chilling there. But not much in the way of visible carbonation with this one, just one or two big bubbles at the bottom of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head there, but the head incidentally has just faded away to be a thinner foamy layer now. But it looks nice, I have to say. I do like how this one goes together. So yeah, let's take a wee look at the aroma of this beer then and see how we get on. Not really surprised about the colour of this one when we consider what it is. Barley wines are always dark like this. A rye wine is going to be even darker, I would think. So yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker coloured beer. This can play a big role in barley wines. It's kind of big when it comes to the heavier and more brown sugary leaning heavy alcohol beers. But then yeah, you've also got adjuncts and barrel aging that can play a role in the colour of your beer, but in this case we don't really have to care about that. But yeah, let's take a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what we have. Oh yeah, I'm going to say straight away, this is right up my street. If you've watched the channel for any length of time, you will know that I love these big brown sugary malty beers, and this one, yeah, this one really is very, very nice actually. This is going to be pretty awesome, I can tell that. So yeah, you get a lot of brown sugar out of this one. It's got a lovely caramelised note to it. You are getting some hoppy notes out of it, lovely fruitiness as well. But yeah, this is just a big malty affair, this one. Little bit of fruit, little bit of hop. Everything you'd want from a barley wine, or, you know, as I say, a rye wine as well. So let's break this aroma down and try and describe it for you that wee bit more in depth. It's almost just like it is almost just like a barley wine, but the bready character is that little bit more spicy. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, absolutely, you can smell a little bit of that kind of slightly toasty, well-fired bread crust. And it has that kind of slightly rye, spicy character to it. I used to love the German rye bread when I was living in Heidelberg in Germany. It was, you know, used to go down to the bakery pretty much every weekend, get a loaf of that, and it would last me a good few days of the week. Ended up eating far too much of that. But anyway, yeah, lovely, kind of slightly dry, toasty, bread crusty character coming out of this one. A few woody and slightly nutty elements in there as well. But then you can smell there's a big, airy, there is quite like a big, airy, sweet, almost German rye bread quality out of this one. Above that though, you're getting lots of brown sugars. I think this beer has had a bit of a longer wort boil, because the brown sugary character really is kind of leathery. In a way, there's a good little bit of leathery brown sugar to this one, which I do like. So yeah, lovely leathery brown sugar to this beer. On top of that though, you do get a sweeter, straight up caramel out of this one. There's a little bit of treacle and molasses in there. And I'm also getting some nice kind of biscuity character out of the beer as well. The beer almost has like a little touch of that kind of sweetness, you know, that tobacco aroma to it. But yeah, the brown, the sort of rye bread and the whole, you've got a bit of wholemeal brown bread in here as well. The bready characters out of this one are actually pretty spicy. And I've never come across anything like that. But like I said, Hiisi will use local ingredients. So potentially this has got some, that it probably has got some form of local rye that we've not come across before. And remember, crops can change across the world, you know, because of the different soil profiles, the different water profiles and stuff like this. That can play a big role in actually determining the flavours of lots of different things. Coffee beans are a good example. But yeah, the bready character you get in this beer, say there's a bit of wholemeal bread, there's that sweet, oily rye bread, then you've also got that sweet rye bread, and you've also got you've got that sweet rye bread in there, and you've got the big brown sugary notes on top of it, the big leathery brown sugars, the sweet caramel. Yeah, the sweet caramel, the treacle, the molasses, and the big leathery notes underneath. You have got a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit to this one, but embedded within that, you've got some lovely kind of nutty characters coming out of the beer as well. So, yeah, aroma-wise, this one is pretty damn nice, I have to say. Yeah, the whole malty character in this beer is lovely. You do get a little bit of that kind of brandy-soaked bread character out of this beer as well, and yeah, as I say, a little bit of a tobacco-y character too. I'm not sure exactly how old this beer is. It doesn't say. It says it's best before the 7th of January 2023, so maybe I'm guessing this beer might be a year or so old. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. That's the thing with some of these bigger beers in alcohol. They will sit a little bit, but a barley wine is always better when you age it a wee bit more. So I'm actually drinking this beer not long before it goes out of date, actually. That's kind of funny. But of course it would last longer. But yeah, this beer, that even though it's that old, you do still get some of the hoppy character coming out of this one. And I would be very curious to know what hops they've used in this beer, but something is telling me it might be something along the lines of, you know, a bit of Chinook and a bit of Cascade, some of the more classic American hops. But the green component in this beer, there's a little bit of earthiness in there. Yeah, definitely a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of a herbal character, some nice floral notes to it as well. And you've also got a wee bit of brighter grassiness too. This beer still does have a little bit of zestiness to it, which is quite interesting when you consider how, you know, that this beer may well be like a year or two old in the bottle. You're still getting these notes out of it. But on the fruity side of things, yeah, the fruity side of things in this beer is really nice. There's a lot of lovely kind of sharp raisiny notes out of it. I'm getting big juicy plums. Underneath that, there are little elements of, you know, dates and prunes, like the more dry fruity characters. But there's also a little bit of like sultana and pear and stuff like that. Definitely getting some juicy figs as well. Black currants and blackberries. This beer, this is one of the things with rye malts, is they always bring out some of the more fruity characteristics in things. But yeah, as I say, raisins, plums, prunes, dates, sultanas, pears, some juicier figs, some blackcurrant and blackberry. The fruity side of this beer, I have to say, is pretty damn impressive. So yeah, this is lovely. Big, like, this beer really just smells like brandy soaked bread, brandy soaked fruit loaf or something like that. Beautiful aroma, I have to say. I'm really hoping the flavour kind of matches up to that. But yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But I think trying a rye wine is pretty special, so especially with something like this. So yeah, let's get started with this one and see what we have. So this one is the Loviatar, I think I should pronounce this, from Panimoyhtiö Hiisi in Jyväskylä in Finland. A rye wine at 11% ABV. Thank you again to Riku for sorting this beer for me. Let's get stuck in. Ooh. That's interesting. This is one of these beers, I think, I can feel it developing now. When you first take it in, you don't get you get a big flavour out of it, but you don't get such a big complex flavour out of it. But as it develops and shifts towards the aftertaste, you get more and more out of this one. So yeah, the way this beer goes about its business is really quite nice. It's a lot. I can tell from the flavour of this one, it has had a hell of a long wort boil, but the rye in this one also has a good little bit of spice to it. And I've never tasted rye quite like this one. And it really does give you a bit of spiciness and dryness into the aftertaste. Yeah, this is a good beer. I'm going to say that straight away. This is a good one, but be aware, this beer is nowhere, the Ryewine, at least this one, is nowhere near as kind of sweet and chewy as you'll get from some. It's nowhere near as sweet and chewy as you'll get from some barley wines. This is a little bit more darker and a little bit of a more dark and kind of spicy affair actually. So yeah, this is interesting. But this is why we do these reviews. We want to learn about new styles and try different things. But yeah, Hiisi have done a good job of this. I'd be very curious. I need to have a look and see what else they have. But I think I'd be curious to try like a straight up barley wine or even a wheat wine from these guys. And I would say your palate needs a little bit of time to adjust to this beer. It does get sweeter and sweeter the further into the aftertaste that you go actually. So yeah, flavour wise, this is nice. This one. Let's try and break this down though and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Middle third of your palate. You can feel you have that really toasty, and it's actually quite a dry, well-fired bread crust there. I don't know if I would go as far. It's not quite like black, but certainly you've got this really dry, well-fired. It's like the rolls that my dad used to like to have on a Sunday, like these well-fired breakfast rolls. It's really like that in the backbone of the beer. As you go toward the front, of that middle third of your palate, you've got there is a nice little touch of woodiness in there and a little bit of nuttiness as well. But above that, you get the thicker and more dense. Rye bready character of this one. It really is very oily in things. So yeah. So dry bread crusty notes in there, the sweet oily rye, and yeah, the further into the aftertaste you go with this beer, you get more and more of the kind of spiciness out of the rye. Like the well-fired bread crust and the spiciness really linger there into the aftertaste with this one. In some ways, this is actually quite a straight shooting beer, but the way the flavour goes together is really nice, and you get, as I say, you get more and more complexity out of this one the further into the aftertaste that you go. So above the kind of dense rye bready character, above that, you start to get there's almost a little bit of a slightly sweeter and lighter wholemeal brown bread, and then you get the big leathery brown sugars out of this thing. So yeah, this beer, just from the flavour, you can tell this one's had quite a considerable wort boil. You can really get that out of it quite like very easily. So you've got that, you've kind of got a big circle sitting above the wholemeal brown bready layer, and that's where your brown sugars are lying. So the base layer of that is like a big leathery, just big leathery brown sugar. Then you've got a layer of kind of treacle molasses sitting above it, and then as you go into the dead centre of your palate, as you move in toward that, you get a bit of a straight up kind of sweeter caramel there. And of course this beer is 11%, it is pretty boozy, so yeah, to have these layers of brown sugar in this beer is not surprising. But toward the front of that middle third of your palate, with it just under the kind of brown sugars, you will get a few like nutty sort of tobacco-y type flavours in there as well. I say tobacco flavours, I've never eaten tobacco or smoked in my life, but we used to play with it in the lab quite a lot because it was great for training you in like toxicology and things. But yeah, it has, toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you really get this kind of sweetness out of the brown sugars, but the overall vibe of the beer in that middle third of the palate is big, highly caramelized brown sugars and a little bit of spiciness underneath. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is some kind of rye that I've never come across before, but this is a lovely, lovely beer actually. I think it is very nice. Yeah, in terms of the I think that's everything we really need to say in terms of the middle third of the palate. So let's go to the back third of your tongue then. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a bit more of a bready build up in there. It's a sweet rye bread and it does have a bit of that spicy character in there. It's almost a little touch peppery or something. But the base of that back third of your palate, you get more of that roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust in there. Above that, you definitely get that rye bready character, and it's actually still quite dense on the back third of your palate, but that flavour layer is taller. And then above that, you get a little touch of like a dry kind of honeycomb type flavour there. I'm trying to figure out if at the top of that rye bready layer, whether it's maybe a more kind of wholemeal brown bready layer. I think that probably is fair. So yeah, the toasty, well-fired bread crust. Yeah, airy rye bread, then a layer of wholemeal brown bread, and then yeah, a kind of more toasty honeycomb type flavour. And then above all of that, you've got this really airy, kind of slightly more farmhousey brown bready character. So you get a little bit of a really airy, light bready note with an even lighter, sweeter honeycomb flavour. But yeah, the back third of your palate, the flavour is definitely taller. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down and squashes together that little bit more as you move forward. But yeah, I like how that goes together. Definitely gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, the brown bready notes in this beer are very, very nice actually. It's the way this really is. It's quite a spicy. It's almost like a really highly caramelized long boil barley wine, but it's just got a bit more of a spicy character to it from the rye. That really is what this beer is all about actually. But it does, this one, as your palate adjusts to it, like I say, it gets sweeter and sweeter. I can feel the booze going to my head a little bit with this one, but I think at 11%, that's unsurprising, to be honest with you. But let's go on to the hoppy side of this beer and chat about that. So back corners of the palate, you've got a lovely little bit of earthiness in there. And that earthiness, it actually is fairly powerful, to be honest with you. So it develops the more you go into the aftertaste. As you go further forward with this one, there's a little bit of a kind of herbal character. So yeah, you've got a lovely little bit of herbal character to it. And as you push further forward, you get a little bit more kind of floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. So yeah, earthiness, herbal character, floral aromaticity. And as you go around the front curve of the tongue, it's got a little bit of that kind of more zesty, grassy character. I'm really surprised, if this beer is about 2 years old, which I think it could well be, I'm surprised at how well the hoppy character in this beer has held up, especially in that green component. So yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if the hops in this beer, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of Columbus in it, a little bit of Chinook, and potentially a wee bit of Cascade, because it has that spicy character you would expect to Columbus. It's got a wee touch, you do get a little touch of that kind of dank pine resiny note to it the further into the aftertaste you go as well. So for me, that would be Chinook. And then there's just a few of the fruity elements that are making me think Cascade. I think this is kind of old school American hops that have been used in this particular beer. But yeah, green component is quite nice, and the kind of piney resin and the floral spiciness fit well with the rye character that the beer has. So yeah. Yeah, this is quite nice actually. The more that I drink of it, the more I like this beer, in fairness. But I can see with some people, if they'd want something, that this definitely has a more spicy character to it, whereas people think, Ryewine should be really sweet. This one does have a good bit of sweetness to it, but it's quite a dark, highly caramelized sweetness, and then you've got the spiciness underneath. So this is the rye wine, at least this particular rye wine is quite different to the regular barley wine for sure. But yeah, I think we can go on and talk about the front third of your palate with this beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of a bready build up in there, nice sweet kind of brown rye bread. Notice it's like a brandy soaked bread. Then the base of the front third of your palate, you do get that grainy bread crusty character underneath. It has got that little bit of dryness. You get a sweeter rye bread on top, and then you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So let's focus on the fruits. So yeah, when you take the fruity side of the beer in, there's a little bit of raisiny sharpness in there, and there is a bit of juicy plum underneath. But for me, this beer really starts to lean toward the drier side of the fruity spectrum. So you've got dates, or prunes rather, I would say you've got more prunes and dates in there. There's a little bit of sultana character as well. But as you move further forward, you've got a little bit more, so raisins, plums, then a bit of a more kind of pruny and datey character, a little bit of sultana in there. As you move further forward toward that middle part of the front third of your palate, you get a little bit of figginess in there, but then you've got black currants, and you've also got that blackberry character sitting above it as well. So yeah, the way that the flavour in this beer goes together is really it's really quite nice. The fruity character has a bit of, it's got quite a bit of dryness to it, but then yeah, you get the more oily red fruity notes sitting above that. But this beer, it really does feel boozy, this one. I think it's a mix of the spiciness and the kind of floral aromaticity that you get out of this beer. This beer and the brown sugars that sit above that, this really does feel boozy. You do get quite a bit of an alcohol warmth to this one in the throat and in the chest, which is kind of unusual, but or for me at this stage, it's quite unusual. But I think it's probably more just to do with I'm not used to the rye wine as a style. But I like it. I certainly do. So yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about the flavour of this beer. Let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel then. It's definitely full-bodied. The carbonation is smooth in this one. It's a big oily mouthfeel more than anything else. It's a bit hard to place the IBU with this beer because you have got that bit of spiciness that could be misconstrued as you have got that kind of spiciness to it that could be misconstrued as bitterness. But I wouldn't be surprised if this beer is like 50 or 60 IBUs. Maybe 60 is a good estimate for this one. I'll need to look it up after the video, but I think 60 IBUs. That's the kind of impression I get from this one, both from the spiciness that the beer has from the rye and from the kind of piney resins and floral aromatic spice from what I suspect is Chinook and Columbus. But then yeah, the malt base, as we said, has a bit of kind of roasty dryness to it, a bit of smoothness and a good little bit of sweetness. And we've also got that, you've got that nice big oily fruity character coming out of this one as well. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer for me is the highlight. The big dried fruits but with the red fruity character on top of it, and the spiciness of the rye is what really makes this beer stand out. But yeah, I think this has been a really interesting beer to try this one. I need to try a few more rye wines because we really haven't reviewed many of these on the channel. So if you have some rye wine recommendations, put them in the comment section below and I'll see if I can get a hold of those. But this has been really nice to try. I definitely want to try a wheat wine and a regular barley wine from Hiisi now, but the Imperial Stout I tried before was also very impressive. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about this beer, to be honest with you. Really enjoyed this one, but compared to a regular barley wine, it's quite spicy, it's quite dry, and I've enjoyed it. That's, yeah, lovely dry fruity characters to this one too. So yeah, this one is the Loviatar 11% ABV rye wine from Panimoyhtiö Hiisi in Jyväskylä in Finland. Really enjoyed this one. One of the more quirky reviews I've done in recent times. And yeah, this is what you want after 3,600 beer reviews. You want beers that are going to test your palate, and this one it certainly has done that. So yeah, if you want a more unusual beer, this is one that's definitely worth checking out. I've enjoyed it. if you like a kind of spicy barley wine, you will probably enjoy this beer as well. But until the next time, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are. From Panimoyhtiö Hiisi as well. We will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the future, but this has been a really interesting one to try. Check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, keep us ketos. Big shout out to Riku once again for making this review possible. Slàinte just now.